right. Good afternoon, and thank you for the introduction. How would you define institutional grade infrastructure in the context of digital assets and blockchain? What about security and trust, compliance and regulation, innovation and product development? And if we look ahead, where do you see the greatest potential for institutional involvement in blockchain and digital assets over the next 5 years? Welcome to our panel on building institutional grade infrastructure for both institutional and retail investors. In case you believe you are in the wrong room, I recommend you to stay because those topics are fascinating to us. My name is Bernard Nicolay. I lecture finance at university at Solvay Brussels School in Brussels and also in Paris at Paris Dauphine and Conservatoire National des Arts et Métiers. I also invest in startup in pre-seed stage as a business angel together with friends. And I find personally fintech and sustainable finance as fascinating. But we are not here to talk about myself. We are here to talk about digital infrastructure. Let me introduce briefly our two expert panelists, Stephan Lutz and Hans-Juergen Griesbacher. And of course, you will just add if what I'm saying is not enough. Stephan, let's start with you. You serve as the group CEO of BitMEX. You have over 20 years of experience in traditional finance, capital markets and crypto markets gained at Deutsche Börse and PwC. But you are committed to advancing the crypto industry, and this is why you are here. And BitMEX is the leading crypto derivatives exchange, providing professional crypto traders with a platform you are going to talk about. All right, Hans-Juergen, welcome. Hans-Juergen Griesbacher. You are the CEO and co-founder of Trever. Do I pronounce it correctly? Based in Austria, and Stephan is based in Singapore, by the way. Trever provides a holistic platform for financial institutions to operate with digital assets such as digital securities and cryptocurrencies. And you are a graduate of the University of Graz in Austria, right? And you come from Frankfurt, if I remember correctly from your CV.
Well, originally, yes. But I live in Singapore for quite a while.
All right, so let's start with a more general question and a definition. How would you define institutional grade infrastructure in the context of digital assets and blockchain? Stephan, if I can start with you.
Yes, pretty easy. Institutional grade infrastructure is infrastructure that is used by professional investors, meaning investors that do that for a living. Not like me personally investing into some coins, tokens, whatever, to gain something, but people who trade regularly. So for BitMEX, for example, those represent high-frequency traders, asset managers, market makers, the likes of those, and proprietary shops. But they trade really like institutional grade, meaning they trade crypto as any other of those categories trade in traditional markets on Deutsche Börse, Euronext, CME, Eurex, you name it, right? So this is institutional grade, meaning those customers are happy to use your infrastructure and are able to do so to make money with that.
Yeah, from my side, institutional infrastructure for us, so we are an infrastructure provider just for banks, so for their back office business. And what we see is, first of all, it has to be fully compliant. Of course, it has to work. It has to fulfill all institutional needs. So, as mentioned, compliance. It has to also be connectable. It has to be a connectability to the legacy system they have in place. And also, every bank itself has their own different processes, how they do things, and it has just to fit within their places. And they are used to already institutional grade infrastructure from the traditional finance field, and especially for the digital asset field, it should also cover the same needs from their side. And from our perspective, the most important, but for the whole digital asset field, is that it brings improvement somewhere. And digital asset will bring improvement somewhere, and we are on the way to prove this, actually.
All right, thank you very much for those definitions. Building on the needs of the customers you're talking about. For sure, security and trust is something that is particularly important. So maybe Hans-Juergen, could you elaborate further, and then Stephan? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So security and trust in the whole banking infrastructure, or industry, as everyone knows, is the most important thing. So from an infrastructure perspective, so you have to ensure that it works all the time. So you have to have several levels of securities on an infrastructure side. You have to ensure if something happens somewhere that your system is still up, because as an order management system provider, if for some point of time you have a failure and the banks itself cannot trade anymore, this is actually the worst case which can happen. And with digital assets in common with the institutional grade infrastructure, we and the whole branch as total is currently on a way to also fulfill this professional way which is needed, so that also big banks can come on digital assets with digital securities or with cryptocurrencies, for example. And we are also working closely together with trading venues. Yeah, so also these venues are really expanding over time and also gain more professionality over time. And what we also see, and we do not have in the digital asset field yet, for digital securities maybe a different story, but every crypto exchange or liquidity provider or whatsoever works completely different. And this is actually our job to bring it on one technical level.
All right, Stephan, more specifically BitMEX, so your company, you've never lost any funds to hacking, right? So could you share more about maybe the design philosophy or the security features, something, or we are looking for practical knowledge, insight, and so on. But you can start generally, yeah, because this is a very important topic.
So first of all, I want to reiterate on what my fellow panelists just said. This is all true. Where I would be a little bit more pointy is, we have been in the space for very long, like 10 years. So basically, if crypto was like banking, we would be the Rothschild of this industry, like a dinosaur in a way. Because crypto is only there like for now, let's say 12 years, 14 years, depending on how you count. The thing that we do is actually, or that we did at our founders did, is embracing this technology. The technology was specifically invented, designed and built, blockchain technology, to be secure. That's the thing. What often has been totally misunderstood is that it comes with requirements. It works I mean, I have the experience in the TradFi space. It resonates, what you say, with me. But the issue is not that it's unsecure. Not at all. It becomes unsecure because people use it that don't know how to use it. So for example, to give you an example, that we never lost a coin is due to the fact that we have quite bespoke procedures in the back end. But they are built natively on blockchain technology. It's delineating between hot wallets and cold wallets, for example. It's about the sign-off procedures, but you need to understand how blockchain works. If we would try to build a process that I was used to in TradFi and put it on top of blockchain technology, that's a nightmare. It becomes so unsecure, not because it's unsecure from a technological standpoint, but from a procedural standpoint. So if you lose your keys, done, you're done. If you don't delineate between, or let's say, or allocate between hot wallets and cold wallets in the right way, you're done basically. If you don't instill a level of understanding of the technology and the necessities of the procedures into your stuff, you're done, right? So if one person holds all the keys, you're done. So we have multi-sig, for example, which is like old already, but we use a multi-signature infrastructure, which is so much delineated that no one in the firm can initiate any transfer just because they want to. Even if we don't want that to happen, but if we would be, let's say, forced to do something, if I would be forced to do something and sign off on a transaction, nothing would happen. Another 3 people need to sign off on that, and they are not in one room with me. They are not even on one continent, right? And we have procedures around that, and it works because blockchain technology gives you exactly this capability. But if you try to combine this with something that is coming from a different angle, it doesn't work operationally. And I think that's where people like you come into. You try to combine that basically and make it compatible, right? I mean, we wouldn't be compatible in our backend infrastructure. I mean, we are compatible for our customers with their back offices, but if we would run like our customers' business, it wouldn't work, and if our customers would run like we do, it wouldn't work either for them. And that's where service providers like you come into the play, right? I mean, we believe ourselves as being really crypto native, and that's why we're proud of that. That doesn't mean it can never happen. We shouldn't fall into this fallacy. It's not like because it didn't happen, it will never happen, and we work on that day in and day out. I mean, our Chief Information Security Officer, who does much more than just information security, is basically one of the most important persons in our company for this. Yeah?
Very good, thank you. That's for security and trust. So let's move to compliance and regulation, unless you would like to add something more.
Maybe just one comment, because that's true to us as an organization. The topic of the panel is like this because that was what crypto was built for originally, or what it was thought of. Giving actually to individuals the ability to tap into infrastructure that's equally secure and equally usable, right? So we speak on many panels about, is crypto now going to institutional world? Is crypto something for retailers? It is something for all. I mean, the tagline originally was be your own bank. I come from banking and I'm passionate about banking. And I always told the crypto guys really like, hey, that's a strong tagline, but if you want to be your own bank, you need to know something. It's not something that you can do like playing a game on an app or so, right? At the same time, the technology allows you to be your own bank, and bringing that together, that's for me the holy grail why I went to this industry and I really enjoy being here. Yeah? And with that, let's go to compliance.
But it's very much linked, because that's also key in traditional finance, so it should be in decentralized finance as well. Okay, what about compliance and regulation? How do you ensure your platforms meet compliance standards globally, especially with the evolving regulatory environment, your platforms or the clients you help, of course, depending on your structure? Hans-Juergen, would you like to start?
Sure. So first of all, we from Europe, we are actually quite good at doing regulations, which we like a lot because it brings certainty in the market and actually a guideline for the banks. And right now we are at the point, and also coming with Mika and also Dora is coming in beginning of next year, so that we have a standard so that they have the regulatory boundaries to start finally with the things to kick it off. So now they can do it. These regulatory points, we see it not as an innovation limit, or it is kind of a way. If you didn't start a point in time, you cannot make a new startup when there's so much regulation already in the crypto space, because you could not start to kick it off. If you're long in the space, it's quite good, yeah, because somehow it keeps competitors out, but this is actually killing innovation at the end of the day. So coming from Europe with really high standards, but we have the same, or the basics of the regulation is the same in this field, is quite good, that it is kind of harmonized between the different European countries. From our perspective, we are not financial licensed, but we support our customers with how this certain things. So with Mika, different points, just let's mention best price execution. So these points, how we cover this, how can this actually work, and if you go from Europe to a jurisdiction where it is not that high standard, it isn't a problem at all. So actually we have an advantage in our home market for every European player with this regulatory field, also later on for exporting. So this is at least our point of view on this.
All right.
Yeah, for us, it's, again, in a boring way, agreeing in one way, but then having a different lens on that. One should ask oneself, what is compliance? If you start there, it becomes rather easy. You could define like compliance adhering to all standards, regulations that are out there, and frankly, I allow myself to say this, it's impossible to do that. It's impossible for any bank to do that because it's ever changing, new stuff's coming out, you do some stuff not correctly according to the words. But what compliance ultimately is about, and there you can do very good stuff, is if you provide a legitimate service, That's a big requirement, especially in the digital asset space. But if you have a legitimate business case and service you provide, you want to have legitimate customers using your product. You don't want to spur like terrorist financing, money laundering and all of that stuff. You want to have, for us, we are an exchange, we want to have a market that works with integrity, that includes market supervision, right, and enforcement action. But we follow all the global rules and we are basically gold-plated. Just one level back. What I want to say is it was at our heart already. And even in the times where there's questionable press coverage out there about my company, you just need me to take my word. None of this was really true. That's the interesting thing. I did my own diligence before I joined the firm. And you can do this even yourself. So it was already at the heart of the company because this company, BitMEX, was founded out of the experiences with Mt. Gox. That was one of the first really big, fraud cases out there. It was like when you look back even bigger than FTX these days in comparison. And founders wanted to build something that this can never happen again on their platform. So number one. Number two, we have been the first cryptocurrency exchange out there who had a 100% verified user base. We finished that end of 2020 where there was no regulation about that, where it wasn't even really clear whether crypto will fall under this. And we were even not operating or operated at that time out of the jurisdictions in questions, right? So we stopped early on after the liquidity was there. We don't have a market maker acting against our clients. So we are, I would say, the most neutral, most professional exchange, but still we accept individuals to trade on our platform. So I'm a little bit like pro-con. I'm pro-compliance in terms of what it wants to achieve, but I'm sometimes not against compliance, but I think we overdo it in a way because it tries to solve a problem that needs to be solved elsewise, because it tries to solve the problem of illicit actors in the space, which isn't actually for compliance. This is for law enforcement agencies, and they need to know how it works. So I'm completely for everything I said. It's like, of course, KYC, anti-money laundering, market supervision, enforcement, right, reporting, of course. But then we need to adapt it again to how digital assets work in the way. And it makes stuff easier, and it's again the same. If we just try to copy-paste what I know from the banking space, then it gets more complicated actually than easier, and we all want to have legitimate markets. We all want to have legitimate players in the space. So I'm pro, we are pro, but we are sometimes like, okay, can we have a serious discussion about that, please?
All right, thank you very much. And let's build also on what you said, and it's linked with the history of your company as well. It's innovation, because innovation is there. So how do you balance the need for innovation to design a great value proposition, and also the need for a certain stability, particularly as far as institutional investors are concerned? Let's start with you again, yes. Please.
Difficult, really, really difficult. I mean, at BitMEX, we are more on the side of, if you draw this, let's say, spectrum, I don't think they are really antipodes. But if we try this, we are more on the innovation side historically, and we come back to that, or came back to that just recently in the last year. And it is, as you say, the difficulty is working on what customers really need, and you need to understand what you do. So the question is always, what is your business case? What is the service you provide? Where do you want to be better than everyone else? You might not be, but you can get there. Where is it? If you know that really, really well, all the other sides like compliance, structure, oversight, you can deal with because you know what you work against. It becomes difficult if players don't know what they actually do. So my question to new entrants is always, what do you really want to do and why do customers need it? If they can answer the question, let's say, in a couple of sentences, it doesn't need to be one, but let's say in 2 minutes, I'm like, you will solve everything else. If they don't know, you will see you have a problem with compliance, with structure, oversight, and all of that stuff too. It's, for me, as easy as that. And that we should never forget, because sometimes in the TradFi space that has been forgotten. There's no conspiracy, it's no bad will. It's just by adding, people forget why they're here in the first place.
So on this point, I totally agree with you. From a company point of view, you should always focus on your core business. And if innovation comes there or it makes really sense for you, then go for it. And otherwise, what we also did at the beginning, we see, okay, this is a good opportunity. Okay, now we switch to that one. Focus on that, what you can really good, and what it brings the main value to the customers, which at the end of the day bring money, which as the next step lets you live as a company and further innovate. So focus on this, but also be open-minded in your field. If things are coming up, which can somehow tackle you, or on the other hand side, which makes totally sense. What we always do is we check on the market. Okay, for us it makes sense. For a few others, does it make sense? But is somewhere out there who is willing to put a coin, in it, because also others see this innovation, see efficiency or whatever it brings with it, and this is how we actually approach it from a 5-6 year old company. We cannot do things just because we think they are cool. We also double check it within the market. And also to your question, how to come from an innovative product to a product which can be fully used, is perfectly in terms of functionality, compliance, etc. The product just can be fully compliant and perfect functionality when it's out there, when it's already used. This is still the truth. So that's why it makes sense to rely on companies which have a product running, which is live. But new innovations brings also always risks with it. I mean, that's how it works at the end of the day. And maybe this is also the reason why it takes some time for banks to start new innovations. Also, multiple points why it takes some time. But my point of innovation to final product.
All right. Before closing with insights relating to the future, let's talk briefly about operational efficiency as well, which is also at the core of your value proposition. So Hans-Juergen, maybe with Trever,
Sure.
What are your insights and your clients' insights relating to that?
Okay, so operational efficiency is for us actually a key point. So also banks, they can start with manual processes, do some kick-off projects, make some trials, make some MVPs or whatever you call it. You can do it fully manual. And it also makes sense because they can figure out how would we like to do some processes, how shall we structure things, does it actually make sense at the end of the day, or was it just someone who told the board this is nice to have? The efficiency and automatization of this whole process in the digital asset field will be key at the end of the day. And this is what I mentioned at the beginning. Currently in the digital asset field, which is covering cryptocurrencies, but this market is already good evolved. But for digital securities, in the next year, I really hope that there is coming the proof that digital security makes way more sense to do it on a classical way. And this just can be done with efficiency, but also the same is true for banks. At the end of the day, it also has to bring them value somehow. And just with MVPs, these are R&D parts for them, so they're just burning money on this. So we have to bring it on the next level so that it is automatized and can be fully used in the mass adoption.
Stephan?
Yeah, my view on efficiency is generally that it's not specifically on digital assets. Either you want to be efficient or you need to be efficient. What does it mean? Sometimes efficiency is a must-have. If you are inefficient, you will be taken out of market, full stop. So you will evolve just out of the will to survive an efficient model. That's usually true for the industrial space. That's how competition works, right? This is why we have competition, or we want to have competition to spur that. And ultimately, if you're then efficient because you need to, that will be good for your customers. I think the digital asset space is a little bit still different. It will come to that at some point in time, but it was founded again. I always come back to why is it there. It was invented in a way because they wanted to be efficient. There were some people saying, hey, we can do that better. How do you do that actually? Okay, let's use blockchain technology. It has some inherent inefficiencies, right? Because the validation is not something that is straightforward. But overall, as system, it's more efficient. And it's again like, if you keep that in mind and you proliferate that in your organization, efficiency will come out of its own. But it requires constant discussion and alignment of people that are involved in your projects. If people don't understand it and are not on the same page, it won't work. So I always ask myself, when we do some new projects or new products or changes, is that something that we need to do or that we want to do? When we need to do it, you drive it in a different way than if you want to do it. If you want to do it, you need to spur even collaboration. You need to make sure that people have the ability to align with each other and we are all on the same page, voluntarily going into the same direction. Whereas if I need to, I don't need that much of alignment. It's rather like I give an order and people need to execute, right?
All right, we could talk hours. So looking ahead now, how do you see generally the evolution of institutional involvement in the digital asset ecosystem, and in particular some insight about its impact on infrastructure and on the value proposition you provide to your clients? And we will end with this, so we've got 3 minutes left to cover this.
So I think couple of things, but short. Number one, if I look at the intersection of digital assets and TradFi, we will see more digital assets and especially more in the light of digital securities, not so much crypto assets. But it will take some time because the current players have difficulties adapting to the new infrastructure. And we can argue, I think it was in one of the panels before, that why do they do it? It's a matter of priorities and the market isn't big enough. At the same time, I believe that not so much in Europe, not so much in Singapore as a home market, not so much in the US, we will see more of crypto evolving because 2/3 of the world population do not have access to the TradFi system. And then we don't need to think that they will go into that, so they will use the better alternative for them, right? Which is crypto and Web3. And this is what I believe. I think 2025 will be interesting because we will see another layer of adoption and we will see more TradFi players trying to get a foothold in this space, yeah? But for the long term. And then it's your game.
Yeah, thanks. So what we think, so you're right on a global level. Yeah, with crypto is actually almost everyone with internet access at the end of the day has access to crypto somehow. Totally makes sense. From our vision, I would say, let's stay on Europe because we have quite some good adoption from the banking field. What we really think, everything what is now working within the crypto field should also be available with all the advantages in the digital security field. So we're really pushing, we as an infrastructure company, as far as we can, because then the banks has to kick it off, and we strongly believe that banks has a huge place still in the future. So we do not think that be your own bank is the next thing in the next 5 years. So we will see digital securities evolving way more. We will see this or hope that a lot of this financial classical industry will become digital, so based on the blockchain, because it brings efficiency with security reasons, with speed, and also with cost efficiency at the end of the day. And I really hope that we are pushing this forward, and that we are not talking anymore for just, let's say, with bonds. Oh, is it a blockchain-based bond or is it a classic bond? Because nobody cares nowadays what system is now used. Yeah, how does our payment really work? Which technology are we using? And now we are making laws which says crypto registrar. And at the end of the day, it is a register, it's a decentralized registrar. So I really hope that we move on. What brings advantages to the community or to the people? And we should focus on this, and I think that will bring the next few years.
All right. Thank you very much, Hans-Juergen Griesbacher, Trever, and Stephan Lutz, BitMEX. A round of applause for our expert. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.